I was just testing you. We got another 20 seconds.
Oh, yeah, baby! Welcome to Stoppage Time with IPJ and my man who needs a haircut. That's John Buckets. Buckets, how the fuck are you, brother?
Ian, you lied to me. We're starting off this show with a lie from IPJ. So I just want everyone to know that it might be a little tough to trust him moving forward on the show, man. But I'm doing good. We got UCL back, and that's all that matters.
Oh, yeah, baby. It's a very heavy UEFA Champions League and Europa League show for everybody out there, including our good friend Eric Gunnarsson. We're going to be straight into the bets. Except Buckets, there's a little bit of business I want to talk about. I am rather hot and bothered at this moment in time because I've been taking care of the kids all weekend. You know why?
I don't have kids. I don't know why.
Because Hot Coco has been out in New York City for the whole weekend. And she met up with a good friend, still single Lauren, in New York City this past weekend. The two of them had a naughty weekend, a girly weekend. So I was left with the kids for the whole weekend, watching the kids, feeding the kids, taking them to soccer. I even took them to work with me, Buckets, and they had the experience. I know you don't have kids, but can you imagine how busy my weekend has been?
I honestly can't even imagine. I have one dog, and sometimes that's too much for me. So you've got, what, 3 children and a wife who I assume was spending a lot of money out in New York. So that's got to be a fun time for you.
Yeah, it's a busy time and it's a fun time, but still single Lauren is out there. She just turned 40 years old and she is very happy. There's a good picture of the both of them at a nightclub in New York this past weekend. So for all the loyal listeners out there, still single Lauren is named that for a reason, and she is available for everybody out there. Please hit up Buckets in his DMs if you'd like to make contact with her. Just kidding. John Buckets, how was your weekend on the betting front? Dub Club looked like it was positive. The bets have been very difficult to predict because there's been some crazy results this past weekend.
Yeah, some very crazy results, and something I do want to address, Ian, because as you know, my bets on the show weren't that good, but unfortunately, or fortunately, my bets elsewhere were doing really well on the Dub Club and on other shows. I just want to let everybody know, the bets I give out here on Stoppage Time, whether they are hit or miss, are my absolute favorite over the weekend. I can't help it if some hit and some miss. Were kind of all over the place, but just know that no matter what I say or what I'm betting otherwise here in soccer, these are always my absolute best bets, and we just got to keep moving forward. That's how it goes.
Buckets, we love you regardless. Just know that one. It's very, very difficult to put up betting picks anywhere across the board. And I'm also going to add this as well. Buckets is not just trying to throw a minus 500 bet here, an odds-on favorite to hit. He's trying to make you some profit. He's trying to make you some money. So what he's trying to do is get as close to plus numbers as he possibly can. Therefore, there's a big possibility that these bets might miss. And unfortunately, we had a few this past weekend on the show, but we also got some nice winners there, Buckets, as well. So there's a lot to be proud about. Are you ready for some UEFA action to come back in?
Absolutely, man. I told you I'm going to try to bet on every single Champions League game here moving forward in the group stage, and it's been hit or miss, but let's have some hits this week, man. I'm feeling good.
All right, we got a ton of bets to throw at everybody, so we're not going to waste any time. Let's get straight into it. But before we go into the bets, Buckets, I want to touch upon the fact that we did predict some futures. I want to update everybody on the futures if I can get my fucking words out this morning. We asked you who's going to win it all. Of course, Manchester City are still favourites at plus 275, Real Madrid at plus 330. Anything there that catches your attention? Maybe the Bayern Munich after a 9-2 victory at plus 900's moved up.
Yep, I'm still on Bayern Munich heavy for this. And what I would actually say, Ian, is I'd be careful for those of you on Manchester City now that Rodri is out for the season and KDB is struggling with his fitness as well. Plus 275 is not enough for me to back City right now. So just be careful. That's my only advice.
I'd also say that just remember, everybody out there, all they need to do is end up in the top 8. They don't care if they win this thing. They just need to end up in the top 8 to go through and miss the knockout stage. Who's going to win the group stage? Obviously, we both predicted Bayern make the move from like plus 800, I think it was, Buckets, to plus 550. Real Madrid at plus 330. Still looking a bit shaky. It's anyone's game right there on the group stage winner as well.
Yeah, anybody's game here. And I'm just going to keep back in Bayern Munich. We just look so good. I know we drew 1-1 to Leverkusen over the weekend, but that was the best draw we've had in a while. Probably should have been 3-1, 4-1, but you just got to take the fact that Bayern Munich under Vincent Kompany is looking like a real team again, Ian.
Borussia Dortmund are sitting pretty as well at plus 1400 in there. They can still get into the top 8. That's my prediction. They get into the top 8. They might not win it, but they're going to be close. Who's going to be top goal scorer? Of course, Harry Kane plus 140. Kylian Mbappe is now injured. Remember, everybody, Kylian Mbappe is going to miss this round of games. Plus 500. Erling Braut Haaland at plus 550. Mohamed Salah plus 1600. Obviously, you can see all the rest of the names going down there. Buckets, you happy with how it looks right now? You said Harry Kane, right?
Very happy with Harry Kane. I think that was +3, +400, +500 when he gave it out the first time. But when you score 100 goals against the Dinamo Zagreb in the first one, that tends to help. I'm probably going to sprinkle Lamine Yamal in, even if it's just for the hype at this point. I love watching that guy play, so I'm going to bet him every chance I can.
Who's going to finish bottom of the table in the futures? We predicted, of course, Slovan Bratislava would be that team. They're at plus 200 right now and still at plus 200. But after a disappointing defeat by 9-2, Dinamo Zagreb have moved to plus 500 buckets. Goal difference comes into play here.
Yeah, goal difference comes into play. And also, this is a tough thing to remember, too, because we're going so live with all of this. If I'm not mistaken, Dinamo Zagreb fired their manager, dismissed their manager after that match. So that kind of stuff can cause some turmoil. When he was very good up until that point, you might want to sprinkle Dinamo Zagreb here as well.
All right, so here's how the updated Champions League table looks. I pulled this one from the Champions League app. It's pretty cool, actually. Everybody go out there and check it out. Obviously, the top 8,
Celtic.
This is the teams that will go through there. Glasgow Celtic sitting second behind Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, Aston Villa. Borussia Dortmund, both of your teams, you and producer Jeff, are looking pretty in the top 8 right now. I think the surprise package is not Celtic. It's probably Sparta Prague sitting in that phase. Let's go to the knockout phase. We've got a couple of pages here to show you. Real Madrid in the knockout phase. Obviously, what happens with the new format of the Champions League is the teams in the knockout phase, the highest seeded teams will play against the lowest seeded teams in a two-legged knockout game. Therefore, the winners will move on to the knockout stage later on in the competition. But there are some big names. And as you can see, the new format, it means that a lot of these big teams will miss out on the top 8 and have to go into that knockout stage. Obviously, Manchester City, as we move forward, are in 16th, Barcelona in 22nd, Leipzig in 22nd. We would imagine all of those teams to move forward as well. The teams that are sitting in the elimination spots right now. Now, remember, when you get knocked out of the Champions League group stage now, you're no longer in European competition. Some big names, including PSV, Stuttgart, AC Milan, Lille, young boys, obviously getting a spanking from Aston Villa in the first game, and Feyenoord sitting in that table as well. Buckets, the games that are coming up are something pretty exciting to look about. But do you like the new games and the new format? Because we're back to Tuesday and Wednesday's games. Tuesday, look it up. You can take a look. Is there anything that catches your attention?
Yeah, first of all, I really do like the new format, honestly. It can be very tricky to bet the first legs at these competitions when it's playing at home and then playing it away, because some of these worst teams just tend to defend and try to park the bus. You can't really do that anymore. A draw, like we saw with Arsenal Atalanta, could be the difference between finishing the top 8 or playing through those knockout stages. So I really like this format. When I'm looking at this set of games, I am terrified. I have absolutely no idea how to bet on Arsenal versus PSG. It should be a really good game or a really boring game. It can be hard to predict some of those times when two big titans clash. Other than that, Leverkusen versus Milan and Dortmund versus Celtic both have my eye as well there.
It's funny you pick on that one as well, because producer Jeff sent me a message this morning saying, worth noting, only 3 of the 18 Champions League matches are between teams that both won their first game. That would be Borussia Dortmund against Celtic, Villa against Bayern, and Benfica against Atletico Madrid. Good pick up there by producer Jeff. Anyway, let's go to Wednesday's games. We got some big games to look forward to. Buckets, obviously, the Bayern Munich game against Aston Villa is a tasty one. I like that Benfica against Atletico Madrid game as well. But Real Madrid without Kylian Mbappe going back to France to take on Lille, Leipzig against Juventus. Anything else catch your attention?
Yeah, I actually really like the Sturm Graz versus Club Brugge match, specifically if you're looking at goals, and we'll talk about that later. And then Liverpool playing at Anfield under Arne Slot is just a fun team to watch right now. Bologna kind of falling apart at the seams, so that could be a blowout there for the EPL side.
On Thursday, we got Europa League action. Let's have a look at the table right now. The top 8 and the teams who are qualified into the knockout stages will qualify into the knockout stages. Currently sitting with Glasgow Rangers in the top 8 of Europa. Scottish football's doing well right now. Tottenham sitting pretty. Lazio as our Ajax at the top of the table. I can only imagine there's a lot of changes that will take place before we move further down. Let's have a look at the fixtures that are taking place. There is a full slate of Europa League games on Thursday. Hiya, Freya. And Buckets, I'm not even go through all of these games, producer Pruzurjev can whip through them as well. Anything that catches your attention here? Obviously, Tottenham against Ferencvaroski, and then we've got Lazio against Nice, which is a good game to look forward to. Galatasaray, of course, a big game away from home as well, as do Ajax Amsterdam. The one that catches my attention is Athletic Club Bilbao against AZ Alkmaar. Pirates on fire, man intense is purified. Remember the video from a previous episode. Roma away from home. And the big one for me is Porto against Manchester United before, of course, the later kickoff Rangers against Lyon. Anything for you, Buckets?
We've got a bunch, honestly, because in this match day, I'm seeing a lot of these smaller clubs that are really, really good specifically at home. So there's money to be had betting some possible underdogs at home. We've got teams like Karabag playing at home against Malmo. Not a small club by any means, but Rangers at home is a very tough team to play against, especially when you're a struggling Lyon side. I think we could see some very bizarre results here in this match.
Well, just for the love of our good friend Eric Gunnarsson, you know it wouldn't be an episode of Stoppage Time if we didn't get you some wagers from our betting expert. Yes, that's right, the blonde bombshell, the betting unicorn, John Bucketimer. Welcome back to Buckets is about to hit the fucking big time. Buckets, I want multiple bets for you. I'm looking for 2 best bets for Tuesday's Champions League games, 2 best bets for Wednesday's Champions League games, 2 best bets for Thursday's Europa League games, and I don't want anyone to hide this weekend because John Bucketimer is about to sweep. So Buckets, let's go to your first best bet for the games that are taking place on Tuesday.
My first best bet, IPJ, is going to be the team that is the top favorite to win the thing as a whole, facing the team that is the absolute least favorite or favorite to finish last on the table. We've got that bizarre matchup between Slovak side Slovan Bratislava taking on Manchester City. And even Manchester City missing Rodri, even them potentially missing KDB for this fixture, it doesn't matter. This is a game that Manchester City on paper should win by 7 or 8 goals. This could be an absolute bloodbath. However, I'm looking at a Pep side that tends to be a bit more tactful. I'm looking at a Pep side that knows that they need to win this game early so that they can choose to rest their players as they're still having one hell of a tight EPL race right now. I'm taking Manchester City team total, so Man City by themselves to score over 1.5 in the first half at -110. This was a very hard game for me to find value at, considering Manchester City is like a -2,000 favorite, but take them to score 2 in the first half because they've got the talent to do that. And then when they're up 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, they can choose to rest some of their big players for their EPL fixtures in a game that really shouldn't matter that much, Ian.
I'm just wondering, is there a possibility to ladder the goals here in the first half? Because I do believe that 2 goals is very possible, but we could see 3 or 4 goals in that first 45 minutes. And as you pointed out there, an opportunity to rest players in the second 45 minutes. Is there a possibility to ladder, and how would you do that?
I actually have a note here that says, for when IPJ asks about the ladder, tell him this. Manchester City over 2.5 team total at +380. Manchester City over 3.5 team total at +1100 in the first half. I would put a full unit, maybe even 2 units on that -110 for 2 goals, half a unit on 3 goals, and a quarter unit on 4 goals. As long as Manchester City scores at least 2 in the first half, you are making profit. And then you've got some fun chance at hitting that 3rd or 4th rung on the ladder as well.
Some sound betting advice from our guy, John Bucketimer. Buckets, just before we go anywhere, the goal scoring props right now are very entertaining. What do you think Erling Braut Haaland is anytime goal scorer in this game?
Oh, it's going to be hideous. I'm going to say -300.
-400 anytime for Erling Braut Haaland. To score first or last might be interesting at -155. It's still not enough juice for me. To score 2 or more goals in this game, it's +110. And to score a hat-trick or more, it's +360 for Erling Braut Haaland. So please, everybody, as you can see by the betting odds, this one's heavily favored in Manchester City's favor. So please bet responsibly. Let's give you a second best bet on Tuesday.
Second best bet on Tuesday. I'm going to, for me, what is one of my favorite games to bet on because I specifically love both of these teams domestically. It is the Dutch side, PSV Eindhoven, taking on Portuguese side, Sporting Lisbon. And I'm going for goals here. I'm going for, honestly, probably a lot of things here, but start with the easy one. A same game parlay of both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at -130. A little bit of juice, but when you look at the players on the pitch here, I don't know how you bet on anything other than goals. Obviously, we've talked about Victor Gyökeres to death so far. He has been absolutely incredible for the Sporting side. Trincao has been great. Freya loves this play. I'm just throwing that out there now. Pedro Goncalves is expected to be back, and PSV, hey, 1 second.
Yeah, Freya. Listen, we'd like you to be quiet as well. Gyökeres is talking.
Freya, not when Gyökeres is talking, baby. Anyone else is fine. PSV, the American side, as a lot of people call them, Gus Till, Frankie de Jong, they just got so much talent. And playing at home, it's one of those teams that is a pain to play against here. I think this game ends with 4 or 5 goals, a 2-2 draw or a 3-2 either way. But take both teams to score, take over 2.5 goals parlay together at minus 130, and sprinkle Gyökeres to score at plus 125 as well, Ian.
Yeah, I like this one as well. I'm also looking at the fact that both teams to score no draws at plus 110 as well. So obviously very similar to what you're looking at. I do love the goal scoring props in this game because as you pointed out there, these two teams love scoring goals. PSV, Ricardo Pepi, outstanding performance this past weekend, getting a couple of goals to his name. He should be involved in this game in some way. But the goal scorers, of course, is Gyökeres. Anytime goal score buckets for Gyökeres in this game is plus 125. Plus numbers for Gyökeres. Are we getting to that stage now where we just got to throw money at him?
I think you have to play it. It's an automatic play for me. If it's above like minus 120, I'm playing it. So plus odds, we got to take a stab at it.
I'm also throwing half a unit on him to score 2 or more goals at plus 700 in this game, Buckets, because he is the goal scorer. He's the danger man. But PSV, obviously, being at home will be heavily favours as they are domestically as well. That's going to be a good game. I expect goals. I expect a 2-2, a 3-3, a 3-3, something crazy result in that game. Let's hope it happens. Buckets, that's great for Tuesday's games. Let's move to the slate of games that are taking place on Wednesday and get your first best bet.
Speaking of numbers, we just absolutely have to bet. Let's bet the exact same wager we've now done about 8 times on FC stoppage time, and it just keeps hitting. Aston Villa versus my boys, Bayern Munich here, and we're taking the exact same wager we took against them, against Leverkusen on the weekend here. Over 1.5 goals in the first half, Ian, is plus 115. I got to take this number anytime it's plus odds because as Bayern Munich has shown time and time again, they are capable of covering this by themselves. However, Bayern Munich still, as good as they're getting, they don't really play defense yet. And Aston Villa at home, with the talent they have, can always score on their best day against anyone. Take this at plus 115. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 1-1 or 2-1 Bayern at halftime. But if you don't take the team total and just take the match total, it gives you that safety net if Aston Villa really decides to show up here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. Obviously, Bayern Munich are flying high at the top of their table right now. They had a very interesting result against Leverkusen this past weekend. Buckets, I'll get your thoughts on that game in just a minute. But at domestically, the table, Bayern are top of the table on 13 points, 4 wins, 1 draw, 17 goals scored from the 5 games that they've obviously played defensively much better with only 4 goals conceded. Going up against an Aston Villa side who got a draw at the weekend against Ipswich. It was a great game, and they've actually been on a good run. That was the first draw in 5 games, of course, across all competitions, including that Champions League 3-0 victory away to Young Boys. Domestically in the table, they're 5th in the Premier League, sitting on 13 points, also 4 wins, 1 draw, and the 1 defeat in the Premier League so far this season, which came at the hands at home to Arsenal. Buckets, your thoughts on that Bayern Munich game against Leverkusen this past weekend? It was an outstanding performance from Bayern Munich. They just couldn't get that second and third goal. To cash your ticket, I think, would have been obviously very sexy in that game. And of course, getting a couple of goals, it always helps. But I felt like there was 3, 4, 5 goals out there for Bayern Munich. They just couldn't find the ball in the back of the net.
There was a lot left on the table, and I watched that play where Gnabry hit it off the side post and then off the top woodwork there in about 3 seconds. It was just lack of quality in the finish. But what I will say really stood out to me was not the attack of Bayern Munich, but was Kim Min-jae on that back line. Bayern Munich has struggled now for about a season and a half defensively, and Kim Min-jae looked like he's finally finding his place with the squad. Was very impressed defensively with how he looked. However, you got to finish those chances. There were way too many opportunities for Bayern to take this game, and way too many players that had those chances that just couldn't finalize in the third there.
Yeah, love to hear that one. Leverkusen, not the same team as they were last season, but still got a result against Bayern Munich, which is crazy to say. Only 3 shots they took in that game. Therefore, not as offensively dangerous, but also defensively pretty solid, making it difficult for Bayern to score their goals. But I believe that Buckets is right. Lacking in true quality in that final third. That will come eventually as well. Buckets, I'm going to throw a little quick bet out there myself for this game because I've got Bayern Munich plus over 1.5 total goals in that game. So a 2-0 victory for me cashes the ticket at minus 105. I just think Bayern get 2 or 3 goals in this game. It's going to be very, very difficult for Aston Villa to even get anywhere close to Bayern because I think the quality gap is just clearly there. The only hope we need is similar to what we were just talking about against Leverkusen. Buckets. They need to take their chances. If you take your chances, you can score 3 or 4 goals in that game, Bayern Munich. That's how good I think they are in this competition. Buckets, you ready for that second best bet on Wednesday?
Let's get into that second bet on Wednesday because I'm going to the one that maybe won't excite a lot of people from a viewing standpoint, but it's going to excite me in more than one ways from a betting standpoint. I'm looking at Sturm Graz from Austria taking on Club Brugge from Belgium, and I'm keeping this one nice and simple. Over 2.5 goals at -130, because what we have here are two teams that understand that some of the underdogs, they're going to be fighting for those 9th to 16th place, whatever it is in Champions League. These are teams that are not expected to finish in the top 8, but they're good enough to maybe produce something if they don't hold back and if they go for goals and go for 3 points in every single fixture. And that is what we're seeing out of both of these teams domestically as well. Sturm Graz, a team that usually finishes second behind Salzburg, is first on the table, 3 points ahead of them because they're just saying fuck it and they're going for goals. 8 games played with 14 goals scored, but 10 conceded. Defense is not the priority for Sturm Graz at all right now because they know that they're capable of scoring 2 or 3. Club Brugge kind of doing the same thing. 9 games played domestically with 15 scored, but 11 conceded. Two teams that are conceding more than 1 goal per game. This clash just screams goals to me as teams will be desperate to figure out how to get all 3 points here. Ian, here's a hot take. I think we see a goal in the first 10 minutes of this match, and then all hell breaks loose because the other team's going to have to try to equalize, and I think we get a really messy fixture here with a lot of goals.
It's so funny that you say goals in this game because I'm looking at the anytime goal scorer list in this game. There's only one player who's in plus 100 numbers. The rest of the players anytime goal scorer are plus 230, plus 220, plus 220. I mean, it's crazy. Mika Biereth, he is plus 180 anytime goal scorer. Ferran Jutkla, he is plus 230 anytime goal scorer. Gustav Nilsson, plus 220 anytime goal scorer. And Skov Olsen is certainly another one to watch out for, also at plus 220 anytime goal scorer. So even if you did a little sprinkle on the top 4 goal scorers who are favored to get a goal in this game, there's profit to be had. If you hit 1 or 2 and potentially 3 of them, you can make some mega profit buckets.
You absolutely could. And when I'm looking at the Sturm Graz side that I think will probably score 2 or 3 here, you got to sprinkle a couple guys because so many players on this team score. They don't have that Robert Lewandowski. They don't have that Harry Kane. They don't have that definitive 9 who does everything. Mika Biereth has the most goals with only 4 this season, but they've got like 8 or 9 guys on the pitch that can score. So there's a lot of fun to be had if you don't mind a little bit of risk with your wagers here, Ian.
Love to hear it, John Buckets. That's great. That Wednesday's games in the Champions League as well. Let's turn our attention to Thursday's games, Buckets, because Thursday is the Europa League. It is back on Thursdays, and there is a slate of games. It is absolutely insane the amount of games that are taking place in UEFA competition right now. Remember, we've got more games, which is better plays for us to be able to choose some. But I was just wondering, I'm only giving you 2 bets here on Thursday, but where the fuck are you going for bet number 1? Because this is a difficult one to predict. There's a lot of goals out there.
There's a lot of goals to be had. There's a lot of teams that even I haven't heard of playing in some of these competitions. So I have to stick with some of the core teams that I trust and that I've cashed on time and time again. And one of those teams is a team playing in the Turkish Super League. I'm looking at my boys in Fenerbahce as they travel to take on FC Twente. And I'm going Fenerbahce over 1.5 team total, Ian. It's plus 100. It is even money for a wager that has now happened in 7 matches in a row for Fener, which included them beating Union Saint-Gilloise 2-1 with a man down at the end there. This is a team that knows how to score 2 goals. And that's about it right now this season. They 2-0 against Antalyaspor, 2-1 against Saint-Gilloise. 3-1 loss to Fener Galatasaray. I did miss that one, but this is a team that knows how to score goals, and with players like Edin Dzeko and like Dusan Tadic, this is a team that can do just that. This Twente side is pretty impressive defensively, but they're pretty impressive defensively in a league that really doesn't have many attackers outside of teams like PSV and our boy Troy Parrott for AZ Alkmaar right now. I just think Fenerbahce are going to be too much for pretty much anyone in the group stage here, Ian. I really like them to do some damage here, and at plus 100, I got to take a stab at it.
I was just looking at the attackers who are obviously involved in Fenerbahce, and please don't forget that Jose Mourinho is in charge of this team as well. He was pretty funny at the weekend. He got his laptop out after a video review incident and put his laptop in front of the camera that went out nationwide. Did you see that? It was
I missed that. No.
It was so awesome. He turned his laptop around just to prove that he was right. Video review was wrong. But I also saw that Yusuf On-Nesyri is playing at Fenerbahce now as well. Remember, of course, he scored a barrel load of goals at Sevilla, 196 games, 70 23 goals at Sevilla. He's only got the 1 goal in 10 appearances for Fenerbahce so far this season. And he's been type of player who's coming off the bench as well. But they're racking up some players now, Fenerbahce, to be competitive domestically. It's not working out too well for them right now. They're still second in the table, 3 points behind Galatasaray, obviously after losing the most recent derby game. Love that bet, Buckets. Also love the prediction of them potentially getting a big result. Twente got a result against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Does that scare you slightly?
It doesn't. I don't want to disrespect you and your Manchester United, but it doesn't scare me right now just because Man United does not scare me as long as Erik ten Hag is there. So, no, I'm not worried about that one at all.
All right. Needless to say, let's get to your second best bet for Thursday.
Second best bet is another tough one here because I need to remind everybody that recency bias does exist in the space, but just because a team did poor last week does not mean that they're going to do poor long term. And this is a team that we need to trust here. I'm looking at the Azerbaijani side, Karabag, taking on Malmo FF there. And I'm going Karabag over 1.5 team total again here at -105. Karabag, the reason a lot of people are pissed off at them right now is because, Ian, I was on both teams to score when they played Tottenham, in which Tottenham got a red card in like the 3rd minute or something crazy. And Karabag missed a penalty kick as well as 14 shots in that game here. However, Karabag at home, it's just a nightmare, man. Anytime teams in Europe travel to Karabag, travel to Azerbaijan at the stadium, they don't like playing here. The ultras are wild. The stadium is crazy. This is a team that does really, really well, specifically at home. Maybe we don't trust them on the road, but I'm looking at a side whose manager, after that loss to Tottenham, their manager, Gurbanov, great name, basically said, I apologize to the fans. That will not happen again. We feel bad for the next team that we have to play against. That next team is good. It's Malmo, but is not defensively good. I'm taking Karabag over 1.5 here, Ian. If you want to take a goal scorer, look at Juninho. He seems to be the only one who can score for Karabag, but he could be the one to score 2 here even. So I'm back in Karabag one more time.
Yeah, I love that, Buckets. And obviously, I watched that game against Tottenham and it was crazy. Obviously, the red card is desperately disappointing. But at the same time, you still got to take your chances if you don't. And especially missing penalty kicks, it doesn't help you whatsoever. Somehow, Tottenham getting the job done there in that game. Pretty crazy. That game was kicked off late as well because of traffic. Late flight in, late traffic, late getting to the stadium. Therefore, the kickoff was delayed by 30 minutes. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Not thinking that Karabag had to travel like 6 hours on a flight. And then apparently it was like a 3-hour bus ride just getting to the stadium. So definitely not a day to remember for the Karabag side. Love that bet though, Buckets. Listen, before we go, there's something really important I want to touch upon because I know you and producer Jeff have been, bantering back and forth, and there's been a little bit of snarky comments being thrown in there from you and also from producer Jeff. And producer Jeff sent a long essay, book chapter about the fact that Columbus Crew are the team to beat against Inter Miami. And guess what, Buckets? As you favored Inter Miami to win the Eastern Conference, but also MLS Cup, they face each other in a head-to-head tie. Here's how it looks so far. It's first against second with Inter Miami traveling to Columbus. Your club, apparently, Buckets, even though you're betting on Inter Miami to win MLS Cup, who are second in the table in the Columbus Crew of 116, Inter Miami of 119. The difference being obviously the drawn games, 9-8, 5-4 only lost for Inter Miami. The average goals per match is 2.23 for Inter Miami and 2.0 for Columbus Crew. And as you can see, conceded also 1 goal. So expect goals in this game, Buckets. But I thought I'd ask you for a cheeky little wager on this game, seeing as though producer Jeff, he's going to have his say as well, I am sure, at some point in the show about this game, because apparently you guys don't like each other when it comes to this matchup. But Buckets, are you going with your head or your heart in this game? Give me a best bet.
I'm going with my head. I'm going with my heart. I'm going with my wallet. I'm going with every single part of my body here, Jeff. So get ready with your meme graphics and your flashes here that say Buckets is an idiot. Because, Ian, I brought not one wager. I brought 2 wagers for this MLS clash.
Is that 2 wagers?
two wagers here. Get ready, Jeff. Wager number 1. Inter Miami to score in the first half at +110. Wager number 2. Inter Miami to score in the second half at -130. Listen, I think this game is going to have a ton of goals. It has to have a ton of goals. But, Ian, I'm going to warn everybody right now, I might try to go to this fixture. And if that's the case, it's ending with 0-0 and no shots on target. But if I don't go, take the over here. I mean, looking historically, I know it's different sides now with new coaches, with Messi, with all these new things. But these were the last score lines between these two sides. In the League's Cup, This year, Columbus won 3-2. Before that, Inter Miami 2-1, 2-2 draw. Inter Miami 2-1, Inter Miami 2-1. These are two teams that love a good both teams to score. They love an over 2.5, but they love a lot of goals here. This is a top of the table clash. I know how good Columbus Crew is at home. And I also know that Inter Miami is coming off a couple embarrassing fixtures here, Ian, with some draws that they definitely should have won. But I just think that even if they lose, even if somehow Jeff is right and Crew win this, Miami's going to get 2 goals here. And I'd like to see 1 in each half so we can cash both of these tickets. But as long as they score a singular goal, we're bringing at least 1 cash ticket home.
Producer Jeff is going to announce his picks in 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
Yeah, Buckets. All right, listen, that was great stuff. We are 30 minutes into the show. Who'd have thought it? We've got a Champions League and Europa League special with an MLS bet thrown in there in under 30 minutes, Buckets. Thank you very much. Enjoy the games. Enjoy your week. Everybody out there, thank you very much for being a loyal listener. Make sure you go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and of course, TikTok. We're available there as well. Make sure you follow Buckets and myself on Dub Club, but also make sure you follow us on our own personal platforms as well. Buckets giving out free picks. I'm also giving out some picks as well on my Dub Club now, which is going supremely well. Thank you very much, everybody. Buckets, I love you, buddy. Have a great week. Thank you, everybody out there. Enjoy this UEFA week. Make sure you bet responsibly, but make sure you absolutely have it!